This is the 2025 Bazi Astrology chart, and this is the 1963 Bazi Astrology chart. Take a proper look and we can see some distinct similarities in the patterns between both of these charts of 2025 and 1963. First, there is a replication of the Water Rabbit pillar. Secondly, the replication of the Earth Tiger pillar. And thirdly, there is the exact replication of the Water Pig pillars in both charts. While this may seem like a coincidence, the question is, why do I specifically refer to year 1963 instead of other years? Reason number one is because both 2025 and 1963 carries the same annual hexagram known as the Reform hexagram. And reason number two is that there is also a similarity to the larger 10-year ruling hexagram of 2025 and 1963, which is known as the Meeting hexagram. Hence, I'm in the opinion that maybe this could provide some hints and signals of where we can find and reflect from some of the major and significant happenings around the globe in 1963, so that we can gain better anticipation of what to expect in 2025 and beyond. Let's first take a look at some of the significant events that took place around 1963. There is the China-India War shortly before 1963. And in 1963, China launched the socialist education movement that eventually escalated into Great Chinese Cultural Revolution from 1966 until 1976. Then, US President Kennedy escalation towards Vietnam War in 1963 through approval of additional financial and 60,000 military personnel in South Vietnam. There is also a huge eruption at Mount Agung, Bali in 1963 that caused more than 1,500 deaths, affecting the livelihoods of more than 220,000 people. There's also a Hurricane Flora in 1963 that is one of the deadliest Atlantic hurricane in history that left more than 7,000 deaths and a loss of more than $770 million. One of the biggest world news in 1963 is the President JFK's tragedy. Subsequently, due to the JFK tragedy in November 1963, there is the ascendance of Lyndon B. Johnson to be the 36th President of the United States. Then again, we should not overlook the fact that we are now within the influence of the Wood Snake year, because year 2025 itself is a Wood Snake year. In the history of Chinese astrology, the years of the Wood Snake are often regarded as very significant years. So significant that a famous Chinese historian named Li Chunfeng documented many of his views into scripts called the Wood Snake Divination almost 2,000 years ago. In summary, the main takeaway of the book is that the catalyst to many societal disruptions will often take place in the year of the Wood Snake. Although my intent is not to elaborate on the book itself, I am thinking that it makes more sense for us to refer to the past Wood Snake year of 1965, as well as year 1905 and year 1845, which were also the Wood Snake years. So here are some of the significant events that took place during year 1965, 1905 and year 1845. In year 1965, there was the Second India-Pakistan War. 1965 is also the year of the first direct combat involvement of US forces in Vietnam War. And in China, 1965 marks the year of massive floods and intensification of political turmoil, including attacks on intellectuals, cultural figures, that was seen as the prelude to the Great Chinese Cultural Revolution from the year 1966 until year 1976. And in the year of 1905, there was the height of Russia-Japanese War, which led to the Russian Revolution. And subsequently in the same year of 1905, there was this Russian Revolution. In the same year of 1905, there was this anti-American boycott by the Chinese worldwide. One of the biggest events in the modern history of China took place in 1905, where the Tongmenghui movement of China was formed by Dr. Sun Yat-sen, which led to the downfall of the Qing dynasty in 1911. The partition of Bengal, India also happened in year 1905. This is to weaken the nationalist movements by the Hindus and Muslims in India, which subsequently carried direct links to the 1947 partition of India and the larger India-Pakistan War. And in the Wood Snake year of 1845, there was this first Anglo-Sikh war in Punjab, India, which subsequently led to the annexation of Punjab by the British and carries some earliest historical connection and precursor to the later India-Pakistan War. Also in 1845, Bacau was declared a free port by the Portuguese Queen Maria II. And in the same year of 1845, the British established a concession within Shanghai, China, right after the First Opium War with the Qing dynasty. And in America, President James K. Polk was the only US House Speaker in history until today was elected as the President of the United States in year 1845, the Wood Snake Year. So in the wake of these past events that occurred in the Wood Snake years of 1965, 1905 and year 1845, perhaps I would anticipate more volatilities to the global economy scenes and possible trade embargo between major powers that may further strain the current global economy climate. I would also anticipate the possible rise of social upheavals, new cultural revolutions, and even new annexations of territories due to intense competition for geopolitical influence and faltering economy. Besides, I'm also inclined to anticipate on the real possibility of political turmoil, betrayal, and dramas in some of the major countries. And I certainly do not discount the possibilities where there could be sudden change at the top leadership of some major countries, including the US, in the near future. And speaking of the current US House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, where he is currently being the number 2 in succession line to the US presidency, I find that the current features within his birth chart is fascinating because it actually carries some hidden potential due to the heaven and earth combination to the Wood Snake year. And Mike Johnson's birth chart also has more or less the same resemblances of President Lyndon B. Johnson's birth chart. Just saying. Anyway, October 2025 is where we will be transitioning to a new line within the hexagram of meeting. Normally, for those who studies Chinese metaphysics, the imminent changing line could indicate a period of significant transition where many volatilities may occur, especially from September onwards until November 2025. Moreover, looking at the 2025 Bazi chart, the Yi wood, which is being strongly supported by many other wood elements within, makes it more potent and could inflict lots of chaos because the Yi wood is known as the cunning stem that could betray in Bazi studies. The Yi wood can sneakily hide underneath and creep upwards, just like terrorists launching ambush attacks. Let's also not forget that the combination between the Wu earth and Tu Gui water could be transformed into a fire element, and this combination is traditionally known as the merciless combination in Bazi studies. So if this fiery combination is deemed as merciless, look ahead and be aware to the transition that will take place on October 2025 onwards, which is the Fire Dog month. As well as the upcoming year 2026 Fire Horse year denotes a super strong fire element awaiting us, which is why I would anticipate more sudden fiery clashes just like the recent India-Pakistan standoff. Therefore, let's start to learn to be more sensible, to be more pragmatic, to be more observant, and most importantly to avoid greed, because we probably have less than 6 months left to recalibrate our priorities and risk before the bigger storm arrives.